Hi, everyone, and welcome to the April meeting of Central Park United Neighbors. My name is Jeff Horsfall, president of CPUN, and I'm glad that you're here. If you are new to our meetings, and you can go to the next slide there, Brian, CPUN is the Registered Neighborhood Organization, or RNO, for the Central Park community in Denver and Aurora. We are here to facilitate dialogue and create awareness around opportunities to engage on topics of importance to this community. We help people to find their way into a process so that resident questions, concerns, and ideas for a better community can be addressed in a constructive and inclusive way. We promote public service, civil civic discourse, and collective advocacy. At monthly meetings like this one, and through the work of our 6 working committees, CPUN facilitates the discussion of key issues with neighbors, engages in proactive problem avoidance, and amicable problem solving. CPUN is committed to providing an inclusive and welcoming environment for all members of our community. We are an all-volunteer board of your neighbors and a registered 501c3. Tonight, our meeting will follow its traditional format of an outreach hour and a board hour. The board hour is public, and you are welcome to stick around if it's of interest. The agenda for the outreach hour, we will have our various committees update the community on opportunities that they're working on that you all can engage in. We'll have our community partner updates. We have a special guest tonight, a presentation from the president of the Central Park Business Association and a former CPUN board member himself, Jeff Ederer. And then we'll close out with public comments. For the board meeting, it's a busy time of year for CPUN, so you'll be hearing our committee updates. We'll be discussing the state as well as a job description for CPUN board members that will go into effect in the coming year. And we'll touch on some changes to our executive committee in the next fiscal year, which starts in May. Candidates forum that we have coming up on May 2nd, and then we will discuss some prep for our annual community forum, which is taking place on May 16th. And we will close out, as we always do, with the treasurer's report and then any other topics that we can fit into the agenda. Next slide, please. So I mentioned the slate and our annual forum. We are hosting that on Tuesday, May 16th from 6:30 to 8:30. The meeting will be held in a hybrid format with an in-person option at the Cube and a virtual option over Zoom. The annual forum will feature presentations from a range of community stakeholders. It's also your opportunity to vote on a slate of residents who will represent the community as CPUN board members for a 2-year term. You must be in attendance, either in person or virtually, to vote. CPUN has elected to put this slate of names forward to residents of the community for a vote. And we are happy to have amongst the group 3 new board members who were recently voted on by our board. That's Matt Blackburn, Tommy Phillips, Courtney Dickey. And I'm actually looking forward to introducing hopefully all of them to the community a little later during the board portion of the meeting. You can learn more about the slate as well as the entire board on our website. I will make note that Brad Rivera is slated to be on the slate, but he also is one of the 2 candidates in the runoff for the City Council District 8 seat. So his participation in the board going forward is contingent on the outcome of that election. Next slide. From there, we'll go to our committee updates. Do any of our committees have any opportunities for residents to engage or participate that they'd like to share? I see Carol unmuting.
Yep, there you go.
Go ahead.
I have 3 things to say. The Northeast Education Advisory Council was a group that was formed last year, and it was instigated initially by our board, DPS board member, Michelle Quattlebaum, and she has stepped away from that, but they're advising her about different things. It was established last year to provide a voice for public school families and educators. They took a little hiatus, but they are meeting again, and the next meeting is May 1st, which is a Monday from 6 to 8, and I have the address. I'll put it in the chat. And as I said, they will be advising District 8 Director Quattlebaum. The Education Committee is formalizing various means to support students and school staff, and we'll have more information about that next month. And then finally, we're staying informed. The Education Committee is staying informed about school safety issues and looking at how we can be a resource for the community. We will next meet the second Tuesday in May. That's May 9th from 5 to 5:45. Thank you.
And just
Thank you, Karen.
piggybacking on that, and we would like to have representatives from all of the schools in the community attend the meeting. And so that is a great opportunity for people to become engaged.
Thanks, Amanda. Thank you, Carol. Any other committee updates to share?
Yeah, safe streets.
Oh. Yeah, Carol, you were first there. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, the Safe Streets Committee, I want to give a shout out to Amy Campbell, who is a co-chair of the Safe Streets Committee, and also Sarah McGregor, who works very hard with Safe Streets. And we had our meeting on April 4th, this last Tuesday, and Jill Locantore, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Denver Streets Partnership, did a presentation. It was recorded. We have it on YouTube. It's been posted with the CPUN newsletter and on our Facebook page and various other Facebook pages. There was just it was just rich with relevant, vital information that I think every community member would appreciate. And there would be some surprises for you as well. So at our next meeting, we're meeting every other month. So our next meeting is Tuesday, June 6th at 3:00. Thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I wanted to use this as a time to plug our, on behalf of the Outreach and Communications Committee, the mini golf tournament that we have coming up on May 21st, Sunday, May 21st. We have 3 tee times, noon, 2, and 4 p.m. And so far we have over 55 tickets sold for that. So ticket sales have really been off to a really good start last couple of weeks. They were really quiet for a bit, and then they got nice and strong. The 2 p.m. time is particularly popular. Though if you're interested in the 4 p.m. time, that's when the live music starts. So probably a really good time to bring your family and make it a good afternoon outing, and hopefully with nice weather. So that's on our website on the events calendar. You can find it there with a link on where to get tickets.
Thanks, Mark, and congratulations on the ticket sales. That's fantastic. Any other committees? Carol mentioned Amy Campbell and Sarah McGregor. I want to thank them as well. Neither one of them are board members, and yet they play active, important roles on our committees. So if you're interested in participating in CPUN, but perhaps the board seat feels overwhelming, like too much of a time commitment, committees are a great way to get involved in a way that's perhaps a little more conducive to your schedule and also what your particular passion area might be. So I encourage you to reach out to any of our committee chairs if that sounds like you. We will go next to our community updates, and we will start, as we always do, with Denver Police Department. Hi, Lieutenant Hines.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. After last time with the microphone issue, I wanted to make sure we were good to go at the start here. So for anybody who doesn't know me on the meeting, I'm Kevin Hines. I'm the Sector 1 Lieutenant for District 5. We cover the Central Park and both precincts of Central Park, so the Northfield area and then the area south of I-70. Those are precincts 511 north of I-70 and precinct 512 south of I-70. I'm joined on the call tonight by Officer Ferenz, or I should say Technician Ferenz. She was just promoted to the position of Technician as our Community Resource Officer, and Sergeant Tim Scudder, who's our Special Projects Sergeant out here in District 5. So just to give a very brief overview on our crime right now, we're actually looking pretty good in the Central Park neighborhood right now, which is something I'm happy to report. Over the past 28 days, crime in precinct 511 is up, but it's ever so slightly. It's 0.6%. And that's primarily being driven by larcenies. Now, larcenies are kind of a broad category of thefts, but it is mostly defined by shoplifting cases in precinct 511. There's a huge retail presence, and almost all of those retail thefts are categorized as larcenies. But even in spite of that rise, we're just about even in precinct 511. For precinct 512 south of I-70, we're down almost 19% in crime over the last 28 days. The most pressing issue in that precinct has been burglaries. Although I talk a lot about garage door burglaries, we actually had a rash of burglaries throughout the district and also into Aurora that involved business smash and grab burglaries. And we're starting to see a quick fall off in those as we've made a number of arrests related to that crew. So with that in mind, we don't expect that we're going to see that business burglary trend continuing. Although we are starting to see some more open garage door burglaries as we usually do as the weather gets nicer in the spring. But for the time being, most of those burglaries are being driven by that rash of business burglaries that has since been solved. One thing I did want to talk about with regards to police response in the district concerns school violence. I'm sure many of you saw the unfortunate events that took place at East High School last month. And in light of those events, the city administration, DPS administration, made the decision to reinstate school resource officers back at Denver schools. Now, District 5 has the distinction of having more schools than any of our other districts, and the need for high school resource officers was greater for us than it was in other districts. As it concerns the Central Park neighborhood, we do have an officer assigned now to Northfield High School campus, Paul Sandoval campus.
Officer Hines, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your audio just got quiet there. I don't know. Did anyone else experience that? Okay, so maybe you could just, you were starting to talk about District 5, and that's about when it faded out.
Okay, is everybody hearing me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, maybe I just turned away from the mic a little bit, so I have to get an external mic on my lapel or something like a reporter here.
Yeah.
As I was saying, District 5 has more schools than any other police district in the city. So the impact of getting high school resource officers back in the schools was greatest for our district. As it concerns the Central Park neighborhood, the Paul Sandoval campus over there at Northfield High School is one of the schools that we now have a high school resource officer assigned to. That officer is Ken Harris. He has a lot of prior experience as a high school resource officer out here in District 5, and we felt he would be a good person to put back in the schools just because he has a lot of experience building those relationships with the students and not only can serve as a resource to those students, but hopefully help to interrupt any violence that may happen before something goes beyond the planning and anger stages into the execution stages. But Ken Harris graciously agreed to take this spot for us. He was actually due to be transferred to a new assignment at the airport when we made these staffing changes, and we asked if he would stay with us to the end of the year because of his experience in that role. So we're happy to have him out there at the school. And for the rest of the schools throughout the district, we have over 65 schools here just in District 5. We're going to be having our officers continue to float around and address problems as they come up, stay in communications with DPS security. And we're also having a school violence meeting with the schools every couple of weeks to make sure that we are on top of any developing trends that may happen that could impact safety for students at the schools. So I guess I would say that's kind of the big issue we've seen out here in the district recently. And I think we've got some great folks that are going to be working out at the schools and helping everybody out. Just to keep.
Lieutenant Hines, because that is a particular area of interest to families in Central Park. Can you maybe briefly summarize for community members when they have questions about school violence or school safety in response to school violence, what kind of questions are best to direct at Denver Police Department versus to direct at the district or school leadership?
That's actually a great question that I can't say I can give you a textbook definitive answer to. I would say that one of the advantages to having our school resource officers in the schools is that they work as a great liaison between the schools and the department. So in the event that a parent of a student has a concern, and it seems like it's something that could rise to the level of violence, I would certainly say reach out to the police department and the school. I would reach out to both, and we can start to address that from a couple of angles. The last thing we would want to see happen is a lack of communication where lines get crossed and we don't get the information and some sort of tragedy takes place that we could have interrupted. But having the officers out at the school, and again, choosing officers who have some experience in that role has been helpful to us because they are generally able to build relationships with the students and the faculty pretty quickly. But if you have any reason to believe that a crime may take place, by all means, contact the police department. If this is maybe an issue of non-criminal bullying or things like that, that might be best to start to loop the school into, and then they can get the HSRO involved if needed as well. I hope that kind of answers your question there.
Yeah, it's obviously a big subject, but I appreciate the response, and please do feel free to carry on. I just wanted to make sure we asked that since it was timely.
Oh, absolutely. It's just trying to keep things moving so I don't monopolize too much of your time. I did want to have Sergeant Tim Scudder introduce himself on the call tonight. Tim Scudder was our overnight sergeant who ran all of our street racing operations last year. So when you guys had complaints about street racing and things like that got directed out to our team, he was often leading those operations. We've since asked him to join us as our special projects sergeant to handle a lot of the community relations stuff, as well as some of our particular crime fighting strategies. He supervises now our community resource officers dealing with crime prevention strategies for businesses and residents. And Tim, if you're on the call, would you mind introducing yourself to everyone? Tell them a little bit about yourself. I see him on here, so I'm not sure if he's having trouble unmuting there. Well, he is trying to figure that out. I also wanted to have. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, carry on. If you can unmute, that'd be great. But otherwise, let's carry on.
Yeah. Also wanted to have technician Ferenz speak for a moment about some upcoming meetings we have here, including our commanders meeting this week. And
yes,
are you there? All right.
Here. Hi everybody. So just real quick, don't want to take too much of your time. We do have the commanders meeting this Thursday, 6 p.m. It's going to be virtual. I actually just sent out the link to that meeting this morning. We'll be posting that again on Nextdoor. If you didn't happen to get any of that, you can just email me directly. I'll put my email in the chat and I will send that information to you. I think I mentioned in other meetings before, but we used to do the commanders meeting bi-monthly. We're now doing those every month, third Thursday at 6 p.m. So you can kind of just expect that to come every month at that time. This Saturday, we do have National Drug Take Back. So that's going to be held all over the community. Some locations are going to be more relevant to you all is going to be the King Super locations is 28 in Quebec. We'll be there from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. this Saturday. We'll also be at MLK in Havana, the King Super there, also 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then we'll also be at the District 5 station, which is right next to the DMV N46 in Peoria. So we'll be at a few locations. You could probably also Google some other locations if you're out and about Saturday and you don't happen to be near any one of those locations. They're going to be doing them all over, but those are the locations out here in District 5. So we'll be collecting old prescription bottles. We won't be collecting any needles or anything like that, but if you have some old medication you need to get rid of, you can drop all that stuff off to us and we'll take care of that for you guys. But that's all I have right now.
Yeah, and Sergeant Scudder said he's having some technical issues there. I'll see if he can maybe text his information into the chat here in a minute so we can keep your meeting moving. But unless anybody had any questions, that's all I had for you guys tonight. I just wanted to kind of give you an update on the things we're doing out here right now. So thank you again for your time.
I have a question. It seems like a couple of months ago, I had heard about a program to get mental health professionals to go out on calls, and I haven't heard anything since then. What's the status on that?
So for the mental health professionals, we've been doing that for a few years now. We actually have had mental health co-responders from Mental Health Corporation of Denver assigned to our stations for a couple of years, and they ride around with officers and go to calls that look like they're going to need a crisis response for mental health. In addition to that, we have our STAR vans. Those are mental health professionals that go out on their own on calls where it looks like they don't necessarily need the police department actually there with them on the scene. So if you kind of think of that as two layers of response, for the calls that seem like they're strictly mental health and don't seem to pose a danger to the responders, oftentimes the STAR van will go out on that. For cases that are more serious, let's say maybe an armed suicidal person, the mental health co-responders go with our officers, where they have the officers there for coverage if there's a crime of violence or something like that that takes place, but they also have resources available that we don't. Now, one of the other things you may have been asking, I'm sorry, Jeff, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I think I know what Sandra's speaking about, which is the pilot program that you had asked me for a couple of recommendations.
Yes, and I was just, that was what I was just going to go into. I was going to say, we are looking at getting a program off the ground to do some community mediation, and that was probably, I was going to say that might have been what you were asking about, Sandra, and we did ask for some names from you guys. I just inquired about that within the last week, and it sounds like they're still working downtown on figuring out the logistics of it. I think I'm not positive. I just heard something today, and Danae, I don't know if you can comment on that. Was that part of what they were going to roll out at our commanders meeting on Thursday, or was it something else? I knew there was a program they were just telling us they were going to unveil. Do you know if that was it, Danae?
I believe it was called MEND. It's some sort of mediation program, but I don't have any other information on it. That's all I know. Sorry, I was out on vacation, so I guess we'll find out Thursday, but I do know they're presenting on, it's called MEND.
Yeah, so the short answer is they're moving it along. They're telling me they just haven't made action on it yet. So what Danae said confirmed what I think, which is I believe that's the program they're going to unveil on Thursday, although they said they're still looking at how they're going to arrange the panel and things of that nature. So that is moving along. The mental health stuff we've had in place for a while, and we've actually expanded that quite a bit from when it started. We originally had 3 mental health co-responders, and I think we have citywide something like 30 now. So
great. And unless there's any other pressing questions, I do want to move us along, make sure we stay on time. Thank you, Lieutenant Friends, and Lieutenant Hines, and congratulations, Technician Friends, on your promotion.
Hey Jeff,
thank you guys very much.
This is Sergeant Scudder. Hey, I apologize.
Scudder.
I had some technical difficulties, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to interject here. I came to District 5 about 2 years ago, and I was tasked with the drag racing activities around the city. And after that, I was moved over to being the supervisor of the community resource officers and special projects sergeant. I still keep up to date with the activities of the drag racers, and they are pretty prevalent around Denver and the metro area. I do know that this last weekend they were pretty prevalent up in and active up in the Central Park neighborhood in some of the warehouse district areas. We have put together a drag racing unit, or I should say a team that does operations every week. And that is a small team, and we go out throughout the city. And these drag racing groups have taken on small roles, and then they've joined together into the truck groups and in car groups, and they have now surmounted numbers of upwards of 1,500. And we've been very active in thwarting any kind of intersection takeovers and criminal activity up in the warehouse districts. We're headed towards 300 citations this year. We had well over 300 last year, and it looks like we're going to surpass that. And we're working with the district attorney and city attorneys on other options on how to deal with the leaders of these groups right now. But they are still prevalent. I urge everyone to go to we have a website at dragracing.com,
reportstreetracing.com.
or reportstreetracing.com, and I urge citizens to get online and report that, and we'll respond to any incidences there, because they're very prevalent between Quebec and Peoria Street and that stretch of the highway there. Part of my role is managing community events that the community resource officers do. As summer heats up here, we're going to be very busy with a lot of the community events with Lincoln Tech, as who we partner up with and do quite a few events, and Struggle of Love and some other community groups as well. And so that in a nutshell is kind of what I do in managing them, and trying to get the community and the police department to partner up and be innovative in our crime prevention strategies.
Thank you, Sergeant Scudder. And thank you for joining us. Why don't we move on then to Councilman Herndon's office? I saw Amanda here, I think. Hi, Amanda. There you are.
Hi, I'm here. Thanks for having me as always. So I'll circle back a little bit to the MEND conversation. I've been our office's rep on that meeting. And so I would definitely encourage folks who are interested in that to attend the District 5 Commanders meeting, because I know there's been a lot of conversation about how much they want feedback from the community about what an effective program would look like that would serve the neighborhoods. So if you're interested, please try to make it to that meeting. You are not done yet with hearing me talk about elections. So you're going to get another ballot. Those will start going out May 15th. So they should hit your mailboxes the week of the forum. And then election day is June 6th. So please make sure that you participate in that and get those ballots back in. And then one other thing that I want to highlight is Denver Human Services is running its annual Spring Showers Hygiene Drive. It's an annual program where they collect basic hygiene items and help distribute them to the folks who need them most in our communities. And there is a collection center in Central Park Rec Center. So you can donate some of those supplies. There's also a way to do it via online wish list. So I will post a link in the chat where you can find more details about that. But that's just a great thing if you're looking for a community engagement event, if you have some scouts that are looking for a project, anything like that, they would be super grateful for your support. So I will keep it nice and quick. I know we've had a lot to chat about tonight, but I will be here through the remainder of the meeting. Feel free to send me a message or let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Amanda. We normally have NETC speak, but I don't see Eric here. Please stop me if there's someone from NETC that wants to provide an update. We also don't have John Flanagan from the library, Sam Gary branch, but he did provide a couple of updates that he wanted me to share. One is that they are hiring. Many positions are currently listed and will continue to be posted over the next several months. They're looking for librarians, library assistants, and a security guard. I will share the link to that shortly. Also, Sam Gary Library is recruiting teen volunteers to help kids sign up for the summer adventure program. I heard that squeak, Mark. I'm sure that was your dog. Sam Gary Library is recruiting teen volunteers to help sign up for the summer of adventure program, and I will share the application for that as well. And then we will wrap up our updates with the MCA. I don't see Diane, but I'm wondering, Jack, do you want to provide any kind of update on behalf of the MCA?
All me tonight. So we are midway, I shouldn't say midway, we are charging along through our rehire process for returning lifeguards for our 7 pools. We'll be hiring about 170 people this summer to lead our 7 different pools there. So we are wrapping up rehires. Those are folks who have worked for us in the past and want to come back to us. We will open up our new hire application beginning May 1st. So take a peek at our website May 1st. If you have anybody that is interested in becoming a lifeguard, 16 is how old you have to be a lifeguard with us. That is industry best practice. Some of you may have heard that the puddle jumper pool that's located in the southern part of the neighborhood, 2401 Xenia Street, was the unfortunate victim of a fire back in January. The entire pool structure was impacted by that fire. The cause of the fire remains undetermined, but we are finding ways to get the facility open for the upcoming summer season. There is no way at all, even a little bit, that repairs on the pool structure itself will be done by the time the summer season comes rolling around. But we are working with our contractors and our insurance companies to provide a temporary structure to be able to operate that pool while those repairs occur. Unfortunately, it takes anywhere between 4 and 6 months to get a building permit in the city right now. So we are at a rolling standstill as we wait for the city to do its review and get those things back to us. But our goal is to open the pool in some manner or form, even with limited hours for by Father's Day is the goal. We'll keep you updated as we get closer there. Also, take a look at our website. That's mca80238.com for our summer event schedule. That also will be found in the front porch. The April front porch is where you would have found that. And again, in May, as we look forward to bringing our movies, markets, music, and more to our Founders Green and Conservatory Green amphitheaters. And we start off the season Memorial Day weekend with the Denver Arts Festival in Conservatory Green.
Thanks, Jack. Jack, thanks for all you do as well. We are approaching what I dare I say is everyone's favorite time of year here in Central Park, and all the stuff that the MCA puts on is a big part of why. So thank you. And with that, we will move on to our very
Jeff.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I realized after I forget who it was, somebody else spoke that I've neglected to mention in our committee updates our candidate forum for City Council District 8 on May 2nd. So my apologies for that. We're looking at doing that 6:30 to 8 p.m. on, I believe that's Tuesday, May 2nd, with City Council District 8 candidates. We were hoping to do the mayoral forum, but it turns out that there's another forum somewhere else, and we're still working out a date for that mayoral forum, and we haven't found one yet. So we will announce that when and if we're able to schedule one. And my apologies for the dog toy squeak, but yes, he's being very active during our meeting tonight.
It was fun. Yeah, so if you were familiar with the forum that we did in March for City Council District 8, where it was sort of a few questions and then a meet and greet, we'll follow a similar structure here. There'll be an hour of questions with the 2 remaining candidates in the runoff. And then a half-hour kind of meet and greet format if you have your own questions that you'd like to ask. So look for more information about that. But again, it's May 2nd, 6:30 to 8 at the Cube. And with that, we will turn it over to our very special guest, President of the Central Park Business Association, and as I said, former CPUN board member, Jeff Ederer. Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And it's fun to see a lot of folks I consider good friends here, so that I haven't seen for a while. So hi everybody, good to see you. And Mark, it's just you're freaking me out a little bit because it looks like you're in a tiny house right now, and that you're like there's a ceiling right, where your head is. So am I the only one who's seeing that? Maybe so. Oh, way to go. Okay. Well, thanks for inviting me. I tend to, I don't really like PowerPoint slides and that sort of thing. So I don't have them. But I have lived in Central Park since 2005 and worked in universities until 2016. And that was all consuming for a number of years. And so when I left that and could slow down a little, one of the first things I wanted to do is get involved in the community because I've always believed in building community, contributing and such. So I started first, sure, with CPUN and it was really a rich part of my life during that time. And then along the way, I started a business called College Route Map, and not ever having known my own business before, I was a little bit green and sort of stumbled upon what was then called the Greater Stapleton Business Association, and immediately found it a place that I felt like I belonged and could learn from from my peers who were members, and looked to get involved there, continued in sort of informal involvement with what was then the GSBA until COVID hit, and then excuse me, because the organization was really driven by member-to-member contact during COVID, it really struggled, nearly died, I would say. Also during that time, the community changed its name, of course, from Stapleton to Central Park. So the Greater Stapleton Business Association became the Central Park Business Association. But the other thing is, coming out of COVID, there weren't many members left, and Justin Ross, who had helmed the business or the organization for many, many years, was indicating he wanted to step down. So myself and 4 others decided to step up and form a new board, and I ended up as president. And so I stepped into that role in January of 2022. And we have been looking to rebuild the CPBA since that time. And some of that rebuild is really defining who we are. Are we just an organization that gets together for happy hours, or are we something more? And I happen to think that the best way to serve our members is to serve the community. So fortunately, we have a board that agrees with that concept. And so much of my work with the board and with CPBA is seeing what we can do to build the organization, help the members connect with each other and learn from each other, but that also we would turn that outward. And fortunately, having some friends in CPUN, that's given us some opportunities to connect and help build opportunities, such as the mini golf tournament that's coming up later in May. And I want to mention with that too. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a sore throat, but with the mini golf tournament, it's such a great example where CPUN and CPBA can work together. And I have to say that brings me great joy, because I think it's both organizations are great organizations that serve the community well. And even with the mini golf tournament, I'm just going to put a little shout out to that. It's really become a lot more than a mini golf tournament. There's going to be a lot going on at Flightco, and there's going to be live music. There's going to be games that go on beyond mini golf. There's going to be comedians. Mark, what am I forgetting here? And if you haven't been to Flightco and met Eric and Morgan, the owners, who are members of the CBA, really great guys who they themselves see their business as a way to grow by reaching out to the community with events like this. So I hope, even if you're not going to come play mini golf, that you'll come to Flightco that day and eat some good food and see the events and have a good time and bring kids. It's going to be pretty kid friendly. With that, I will also say anybody who, as far as who can be members of the CPBA, well, essentially anybody who has a business or is a leader in their organization. Although most of our members are small business owners, I'm proud to say that Kelly Pretzer and Brookfield are members. I actually have a meeting with United Airlines and United Airlines folks in a couple of weeks, and I think United would make great members and look for ways they can contribute in the community even more. But we're growing. We're up to over 90 members, I want to say now, and there's a lot of enthusiasm in the events and programs with the CPBA. But here's the thing, we're still we don't know what we are as an organization yet or what we're capable of. So one of the things that we're going to start in June is we're going to build a long-term plan that may be 3 years. That's sort of my running estimate of what that could be. And in that, we're going to seek to make sure that we can define who we are as an organization, what this means to the community, and how we can grow and serve our members and serve the community in the best way possible. Here's the thing about this. I could talk for a while. I'm actually pretty excited about a lot of things that CPBA is doing, but I think you might find it a little boring, quite frankly. So I'm gonna throw this open a bit and see if people have questions. I can always talk further, but I want to check in and see. I do want to talk about welcome bags, of course, because that's one of the loves of my life. And so I'll talk about that in a bit. If people have questions, just hold off on that one. But any other questions people have about the CPBA and what we're doing?
Yeah, Jeff, could you maybe just give everybody a sense of the types of businesses that are among your members, and if residents are looking to support local businesses, what some of the ways that they can find out about the businesses are, and anything along those lines?
Sure. So one thing you can do is go to centralparkbusiness.com and you'll see the member businesses and you'll see the events that are going on. And that's the essence of what the organization is. Excuse me. Right now, the types of businesses we have are really any business you can think of that somebody might need in Central Park. Well, we may have members that fulfill that need. Right now, I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth, and there's a lot of people who have businesses in Central Park who still haven't heard of the CPBA. So outreach will certainly be a part of that long-term plan. But primarily what we do with businesses, we have a monthly meeting where we're looking to provide opportunities for folks to share what they've learned with each other. So businesses will present during the monthly meeting. We'll also have networking is an important part of it. A lot of what we do, though, for instance, we have happy hour every month, and then we have a women in business lunch that takes place, and then we have a breakfast with the president each month as well, and that's where I'll present a discussion topic that's going to be relevant to the members, and we'll look to develop a robust conversation. And this is something that I think CPBA members have said, this is great. I think that there's a lot of potential that can go beyond that. And there's certainly a lot of ideas being generated. I don't want to go too far in sharing what those may be, but I'll give you an example of one. There's Central Park Biz Buzz, which probably many of you know about, and we haven't really had much of a connection with it. Even though Jen Weston, who created Biz Buzz, is a CPBA member, it's always been sort of something different or separate from that. And so now we're in conversation about how can members get more connected to Biz Buzz and let folks know they're out there, and how can we let folks who are putting information about the business and Biz Buzz learn more about the Central Park Business Association. I happen to believe that the more members we have, the better we can serve the community, because that's always going to be, as long as I'm connected with the organization, that's always going to be something that I think needs to be a focus. Because when we say we're here for the community, I think most every member would say, if not every member would say, that's about more than just offering a service or a product. That's about helping make Central Park what it is, and which I think is actually a pretty awesome community. So part of it with being a member of the CPBA is, taking responsibility for helping make the community a better place. And so also participating, and the last part about this is participating in community events I know several of our members are participating in the Bluff Lake cleanup. We had a lot of folks at the Easter egg hunt that took place, the big Easter egg hunt that took place, what was it, a week and a half ago? Those of you know me can understand why I try to stay away from that, as far away from that as possible. So I can't tell you too much about that one. But ultimately, you know, that at its base, it's a social organization right now that is learning how to do more. If that makes sense.
You want to talk a little bit about those bags? Jeff?
Yeah. So I know going back to my, excuse me, back to my CPUN days, or CPUN, understandably, you know, there's interest in welcome bags and passing those out to community members. The CPBA for many years has been passing out welcome bags in the community to new residents, doing it every other month. And I have to tell you, it's a lot of work. And the process as it is now, there's essentially 50 bags are distributed every other month. And this has been the process for years and years and years. I'm not even exactly sure how long, but it started when the community was much smaller. And so the structure of it, really, as a community, we've outgrown that structure many years ago. And so so my point has been, we need to start from scratch and rebuild how the welcome bags are thought of, how they're distributed, what's in them, and what they mean to the community. And so here's the challenge with it. When you work a lot and then you have family commitments, all those other things, this is something that's extra time with volunteer. So it's going slowly, very slowly, but I am determined that we are gonna develop a welcome bag program that's really highlights what makes Central Park a great community. And that's best done if both organizations are working together. I strongly believe that. So I have even reached out to a couple of CPUN board members and putting together a committee. It's just taken a while because I have to find the time to set aside to get everybody on the same page and see how we can redesign the program. And what I would anticipate from that is that we would then go to both CPUN board and to the CPBA board and say, this is what we think the welcome bags project can be going forward. I'm realizing I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to say of the 50 bags that get distributed, it was just the CPBA, and then in the last year, a little over a year and a half, of course, I've involved CPUN members, board members, in particular Mark, and we're very thankful for the participation of you all on the board who have helped with the distribution of the bags. The problem is we get 50 addresses of presumably new residents in the community, and we know there's far more than 50 residences that are getting new occupants every month, and of course much more every 2 months. And so what can we do then to build that program so that as I see the ideal, and we may not get here, but I think you start with this, is what can we do to build a program where every resident, whether they're somebody who just bought a house or somebody who's just renting an apartment, that we can ideally offer them a warm welcome with a bag that's full of information about Central Park, information about CPUN, information about CPBA, information about really anything and everything that's relevant in the community, so that these new members to our community get a sense of what Central Park is about. And I happen to think Central Park is a pretty awesome community, so I think that should be the impression they get. In an ideal world, somebody's actually literally handing off this welcome bag that's full of great stuff to them. And they're like, hey, you know what, this is going to be really helpful. And I believe we can do that. I think it's going to take some time, but that's my goal. And the next step in this process, and I've said April, now I'm saying sometime this summer, to put together a group, and we're gonna start with a 3/4 day retreat, and we're gonna start mapping out what could be the plan. Now, some of you who know me know I'm going to bring up this too. I think the welcome bag should be a great shopping bag that attracts attention and lasts. I always say like the Trader Joe's level quality. And what I foresee is something that has like the CPBA logo on one side and the CPUN logo on the other side. And that's, I go into King Supers or into into Sprouts or wherever, and you see a lot of those bags, and those are people who hopefully have gotten that warm welcome, and they're seeing others with that bag, and that's part of the connection to the community. And so that's the welcome bag. I'm talking fast and with a sore throat, so I will stop and see if there are questions people have about it.
Yeah, we're right up against time here. So are there any questions for Jeff before we move on to the public comment period? All right.
All righty.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Jeff. Good to see you.
Sure. Good to see you. Take care.
All right, Brian, you can go to the next slide. We have up to 5 minutes for public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to make a public comment? Going once? Oh, okay. Let's move on. We can take a little break here before we resume the board meeting. I'm perfectly fine carrying on. How does the board feel? Does anyone need a minute?
Nope, carry on.
Let's carry on. All right, again, our board meeting hour is public. You're welcome to attend and sit in and listen if you like. Why don't we start with committee updates? Is there anything that a committee would like to share that was not shared in the board hour?
Yes.
And I will, forgive me, Carol, I'll
Right
ask
ahead.
that we hold off on discussion around the candidates forum, because that'll be a dedicated topic later in the call. Go ahead, Carol.
Okay. Just to let you know, let the board know that last week I met with the new vice president for the INC, Inter Neighborhood Cooperation, and she is also the chair of their education committee. So I just wanted to find out what is going on with their education committee for INC. And I shared with her some of the things that we were doing with the education committee. And so we're going to continue that conversation. So just wanted to let you know that I had that, I established that link. And just want to also let you know that we've been getting inquiries about membership for committees, just inquiries about what committees do you have, how can I get involved, and what does that mean to be involved. So we're following up on that, and I always thank Brian because he's really speedy about getting that to us and then distributing the information and then contacting folks as soon as we can. So that's happening. And
Carol, Carol, just to follow up on that, we had a sign up page on the website and people were signing up and there were check boxes to volunteer. And when the web page was set up, it wasn't directing those to the right place. So we've gotten that changed, and so hopefully now we'll have a steady stream of people when they sign up on the website to be able to get them to volunteer for committees. So as the committee chairs, you'll be seeing those emails from me. And if you just reach out and, give them information about the committee meeting and what they need to do to get involved, that'd be great.
Didn't I tell you he was good? Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Carol.
And I
Any
can
other-
only take half the credit. Mark figured out that we were doing, it wasn't set up right. So Mark and I figured it out.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other committee updates to share? Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Guest speaker calendar. We always review this. Our board year is complete. I think this was one of my favorite board years we've ever had in terms of the best guest speaker calendar. I think we had some really valuable presentations and conversations on this list. As we roll over to the next board year, there are those open ideas that we didn't quite get to this year that perhaps will fill next year's calendar, but that is to be determined. The next slide, and I switched the order up, Brian. So do you mind going on to the slide that says recruitment? Yeah, I want to talk about this one first. So we've made a big push as we approach the end of our board year around recruitment. We had several open seats, and I'm happy to say we have several interested candidates, 3 of which we were able to interview and vote on in time to have join the slate. I really want to thank Carol and Mandel in particular for their willingness to join those interviews and to help facilitate the conversation. So we do have a final slate here. There's a few steps that we need to take. Brian and Mark, I'm hoping you can help post the link to our annual forum on the website. I'm working with our new members who I'll introduce momentarily on getting pictures and bios that will get posted to the website as well. And then we just need to have an email communication go out. We can either do a dedicated one or just our standard month's end one that Jack issues, which is just fine by me. We met our 30-day requirement for sharing the slate via our various social media outlets. We'll also have note in the we can't be in the front porch this month because they ran out of space because of some other conflicts, but they do have some email communications that they'll get out. We've talked about it here tonight. So I think we've done our diligence as far as informing the community about both the slate and opportunities to vote. So
Hey, Jeff,
yes.
while you pause, so I don't want to duplicate. I'm going to send, I was waiting to get the confirmation that Matt was for sure. I'll send an email to Matt, Tommy, and Courtney and ask them for pictures, bios, and their address information so they can, because I'll end up posting it on the website then. So it'll save some confusion there.
Back and forth. Okay, well, Tommy and Courtney, at least, I don't think I saw Matt on here.
No, yeah.
Courtney are both here. I'm very happy to introduce them to the board. We sort of, as you recall, voted on them in sort of an unorthodox manner in order to meet our deadlines for community notice. And that, so this is the first chance you're getting a chance to hear from them directly. So Tommy, Courtney, welcome. I'd give you each the floor for a minute or so to introduce yourself and take any questions. But Courtney, if you're comfortable, do you want to go first? She's on mute, but I don't see her. Tommy, I see you. Why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, my name's Tommy Phillips. I moved to Northfield in 2020. So I've been here for around 3 years. I've got a 20-month-old little girl and another baby on the way this summer. So they keep me busy. But no, I was made aware of CPUN by a neighbor, and then connected with Mark, and then met with Jeff and Carol, and it seems like an awesome group. You guys certainly know how to run a meeting, I'll say. And yeah, I just look forward to working with everyone here and partnering on, just kind of building the sense of community here in Central Park. So, and thank you all for having me, I should say as well.
Thanks, Tommy. Courtney, I see you there.
Yes, of course, I had internet trouble right as we got to this section, but no earlier in the call.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Courtney Dickey. I have lived in Central Park since 2010. I've lived in a few houses in Central Park, but obviously liked it enough to stay. I found out about CPUN through word of mouth from a friend, and have mostly attended the education focused. I have two children at Swigert, so they are, I guess, into the DPS program in a way that it obviously is a high priority for me. So that those types of conversations have gained my interest, but I'm happy to be here and try and help out the community in any way possible.
Thanks, Courtney. Thank you both. It's really exciting to have some new members, some fresh ideas, fresh perspectives, and I think in the coming board year, we'll all benefit from that. Just so you're clear, the annual forum will be when this entire group is voted on in the form of a slate. So it's just a up or down vote on the full list that we as a board are recommending to the community. So do plan on being in attendance then. It'll be at the Cube, like you heard earlier. In person is preferable in this instance, but remote is an option if need be. Any other questions about recruitment? If not, I do want to make a point to.
Hey, Jeff. Jeff,
yeah.
Can I make one clarification there, because I want to make sure my understanding was correct, that that Tommy, Courtney, and Matt were on the board effective immediately, but they are part of the slate that will put them into a 2-year term. So
yes,
we're not okay. I wanted to make sure. So the board understands that. So that's why we're going to add them to the Gmail distribution and all of that. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding that, but they will also be on the slate. And when the slate's approved, then they'll be there for a full 2-year term.
That's right. And if I wasn't clear about that, thank you for putting a finer point on it, Brian. The other couple things I wanted to mention about the recruitment effort is that there are a couple of candidates that have expressed an interest in joining the board, but we just weren't able to schedule interviews in time for our publication deadlines. We're going to work on scheduling those as quickly as possible. And I'm putting him a bit on the spot, but I happen to see one of those two people here. His name is Chris Broderick. Chris, do you want to say a quick hi? Are you up for it?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Yeah, this is, I haven't had a chance to talk to Beth other than just trade some emails, and I'm very interested in, everything that the CPUN is doing, and Central Park. Been here for, we moved back here to Denver in 2020. We used to be here, my wife and I, and kids in the old days. In fact, I was a journalist and editor for the Rocky Mountain News. I covered Pena and Webb. That's how far back I go. In fact, here's a little trivia for you. I wrote the first story on the new airport in 1984 and the first story on Stapleton redevelopment following that. And to come back here after all these years, we've been gone, and then we came back in 2020, is to see what's happened to Central Park with the vision that where it started and where it is now is just really impressive. And I want to be part of that with the board.
Thanks, Chris, and apologies for not being able to get a interview scheduled. As you can imagine, in an all-volunteer board, the schedules are tight, but we'll do that soon, and we look forward to talking with you more. The other thing about this that I wanted to mention is that we always get good questions about what does it mean to be a board member, what are your responsibilities, all that kind of stuff. And so myself and Carol and Mark and a couple of others put together a sort of a job description. It's not something that we would necessarily publish in full as is, but it would be, I think, a useful guide for when you're talking to people about what it means to be on the board. And I'm putting it in a link to it in the chat now. It just gives some helpful language and sets some good expectations around what a new board member might expect. So If you're talking to friends and neighbors about potentially joining the board or what it means to be on the board yourself, here's some good language to take advantage of. And thanks to Carol in particular for initiating that. All right, do you mind going to the officers committee slide next? Mark, I'm sorry, I made kind of a impromptu
Jeff,
shift.
before we move on, can you kind of speak to the positions that are available on the board, the number of seats that we have? I know that you said that we didn't have time to interview, but for somebody who might be interested, can you let them know like how often we would be able to interview and bring people onto the board?
Sure, yeah, thanks, Mandel. So we started this process with 7 open seats going into the new board year, meaning as of May 19th, we would have had 11 board members and 7 open seats. We filled 3 of those, and we've introduced those new board members tonight. A couple of other people are interested, but the bottom line is that we still have 4 open seats. We will interview people who are interested in the board on a rolling basis. The slate portion that we're talking about is of new board members' first opportunity to be voted on by the community for a full 2-year term. But to Brian's previous point, Courtney, Tommy, Matt, they've been elected to the board already. They're on the board now. And now it's only the slate portion that is yet to be completed. In my case, when I joined the board in February. I think Liz joined the board kind of mid-year as well. She joined in November, something like that. My point is that if someone's ready and interested in joining the board and we have open seats, we will interview you right then and there, and you can become eligible right then and there. It's the slate portion that became time sensitive this go around. Mandel, is that what you were hoping I could clarify?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Cool, thanks. So the next thing I want to talk about is the officers committee. I don't know if there should be an apostrophe there, and I'm not quite sure. Maybe the guy from the Rocky Mountain News can tell me. So we'll have our annual forum, and then in June, our June meeting, that's when we will elect a new officers committee, president, vice president, treasurer, secretary. It's when we will decide which committees we want to be a part of for the coming board year. We typically take July off for planning and for summer vacation, and then reconvene under that new leadership and under that new committee structure in August. We know that we are going to have a new president next year because I am rolling out of that role. And so there is absolutely that seat open. And then all of our seats are open if others are interested in running for them as well, even if there's someone that's currently in the role. I know Mark is never shy about saying he's happy to let somebody else become secretary. So if you're interested in that, please reach out. But all of those roles are open. I do want to take a moment to talk about the president role specifically. As the board knows via email, Liz has expressed an interest and intends to run for president to replace me following the May annual forum. And I want to give Liz just a moment here, the floor, to talk a little bit about her vision for the board in the coming year, and to field any questions that either her email or her message here tonight might prompt.
Hi, everyone. Turn on my video. Thanks, Jeff, for the opportunity. I emailed the board, and actually I just wanted to check if our new board members have been added to the email distribution list.
They have not.
That went out to. Oh, okay. Then I can resend my little blurb, I guess, to the new folks also, just so that you're included. But just a quick summary for folks on the call now. I am very interested just because we're kind of at an inflection point. That the registered neighborhood organizations are meant to be kind of a liaison between folks in a community and the city, at like basically a vessel for communication, like between the city and residents in the city. And how that works out in neighborhood organizations can vary. But I think that with a new mayoral administration coming in, 3 new city council members with whoever wins the district race, and then the 2 at-large members who've already been elected. We have a really good opportunity to kind of establish new relationships with the folks coming in, and really communicate very clearly to folks in Central Park about why does this matter, how if there's new folks taking over the agencies, like when we talk about safe streets, like who are the folks who may have decision-making power over that. So my work is kind of working in constituent services for a different district. And so I'm just really interested in kind of helping like the board and the community navigate these new relationships. And then also, as kind of for folks who were on last month's call, it's kind of the issue of like, what are the rules of engagement of our RNO with kind of other RNOs or INC. I think that like we've kind of come to a couple of issues have come up in the past 2 years around kind of the signing on to the homelessness letter or voting on an INC motion. And I think that there's a path forward. I think that we've all kind of expressed, okay, well, what, to what extent do we represent the community voice? How do we find out what the community desires are? And then how is that a mandate for how we interact with other RNOs? And so I think we can do I think there's a need and a desire to do some intentional work around that. And I'm interested in having like having a session or 2 with like Steve Charbonneau as the city mediator, to really kind of lay out like as a board, how do we want to do this? Do we want to have some guidelines and a rubric around that? And I'm just interested in kind of, if I would step into the president's role, really kind of helping to do some intentional work around that. Since we're really at an inflection point, I think as an organization, the neighborhood is, kind of 20 years in, we're almost at full build out, like what is CPUN for the community and what can we be going forward? I really want to do work answering those questions. And then also understanding our relationship with other neighborhoods in particularly near and far Northeast Denver, and within the city at large. So if anybody has any questions, I've spoken with Jeff, Carol, Mark, and Brian about it. I'm going to schedule some time with Amanda Alshouse, also as a past president. But if anybody else on the board or anybody else on this call would like to take some time to give me their thoughts on this or ask me any questions, I'm available and happy to meet. And I can just put my contact information in the chat. So anyway, thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Of course. Does anyone have any questions for Liz? If you do, I'd encourage you to ask them. We've got the May forum coming up, and then the elections in June, and these are our kind of 2 best this is really our best opportunity between now and then. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Just because I'm in the role now, I want to offer a few thoughts about Liz from what I've observed in my time working with her. One is that Liz has made an impact in a lot of areas very quickly. To put it bluntly, she gets shit done, and she has since she started. I think Liz is an outstanding communicator and messenger. One of the biggest areas that we need help in is in outreach. She and Jeff Ederer, in a different context, talked about the size of the community and how hard it is to make a dent. I think Liz offers a wealth of knowledge and professional experience in that domain that the board can benefit from. I think she's right that we are at an inflection point in terms of a new mayoral administration, a new city council person coming in. And I think it's good that someone with a thoughtful, fresh perspective can be there to help lead this board through that transition. I think if I were to stay on, we would revert to a lot of the same stuff we did with the new set of people. And so this feels like a really good opportunity. And then I think the other thing she talked a little bit about is some of the issues that have come up around the INC or the unhoused. And if I'm being honest, she and I probably disagree about some of those things, or have historically disagreed about those things, but I don't think that's a problem. I think our disagreements have always been the healthy kind, the productive kind. And I hope that if Liz takes over my seat, that the entire board will rally around those conversations with the same spirit of good faith and good intention and purposefulness that I think Liz has always brought to those discussions. So unless there's anything else anyone wants to add, I just hope people are excited about what I think Liz can bring to this board. Okay.
I just want to second what you said, Jeff, about perspectives and that we don't always agree with one another. But what I think we're always doing is respecting one another and listening to one another. And so if I don't agree with you, which has happened on occasion, you've given me something to think about. And I say this a lot because I'm a teacher and I used to say it to my students in all sincerity, is that you help me get smarter. So even if I don't agree with people, generally they help me get smarter. And I appreciate that.
Thanks for that, Carol.
I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for the kind words. And again, my contact information is in the chat. If folks want to talk offline, I'm very available. So happy to chat with anyone.
All right, why don't we go to we're kind of getting through it here. Let's talk about the candidates forum next, the May 2nd slide. Thanks, Brian. So as Mark said, the situation we have is that we hope to combine the two forums, have 1 hour be dedicated to city council, 1 hour dedicated to the mayoral forum. We were approved by the city to serve as sort of an official race for the city council forum. So that one is moving ahead. And you can read the outline for it here. But unfortunately, we were not approved for the mayoral one, and the candidates have a conflict. So we meaning myself and Mark and Liz and Brian Weber from the foundation, are working hard to kind of scramble and get together an alternative date. It could be as soon as April 27th, which is next Thursday, which is tight. And so if that happens, it would follow a very similar format to this. And we would need all hands on deck to get the word out, because we will not have a lot of time between signing off on the event and getting the word out and getting butts and seats for the 27th. But the May 2nd forum with the two remaining city council candidates, Chantel Lewis and Brad Revere, is proceeding as you see scheduled here. Are there any questions about this, or perhaps Mark, Liz, would you like to add anything to what I've said here?
No, just I updated the graphic for it and can share it
yes.
to the email list. and we'll get it up on socials, and it can be included in the next email that goes out. But just since it's just district aid and not mayoral, I revised the graphic, and we'll kind of circulate that around if folks can share that in their networks. And there's an RSVP form, mostly just so that we have kind of a general idea of how many folks are coming. So if folks who are planning to come can RSVP on that, that just helps us with planning.
Yes, thank
Jeff,
you.
I
And
have.
oh, I'm
Jeff,
sorry,
I-
Brian, could you also create an RSVP link on the website like we do for the annual, excuse me, for the monthly meetings?
Yeah, Mark does those. He can do it, I'm sure.
Okay. Someone was trying to ask a question.
Sorry, repeat that. What was it that I'm doing now?
Creating an RSVP on the website for the city council event, like
I'll
we
do
do
that right now.
monthly. Okay, thank you.
Jeff,
With-
we have confirmed use of the cube on April 27th, beginning at 5 p.m.
Great, that is step one. Now we need to see if both the Johnston and Bruff campaigns also confirm. Mark, as I understand it, we had almost the suggestion of the 27th from the Bruff campaign, and we're waiting to hear back from the Johnston campaign. Is that right?
Yes. And if anybody knows Mike Johnston's camp or anybody with the campaign, please reach out to get them to hurry up and let me know.
If you have,
Jeff,
yeah,
go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
I
was just going to say, what? There's a weird 3-second lag. You go first, Brian.
No, I was just going to say, we need to confirm that the Zoom is available also. So I can do that, but before the 26th is finalized and we say it's Zoom, the city Zoom account may not be available. So I need to send the email to the city to make sure.
And in absence, Brian, in absence of the city Zoom, the MCA would be willing to utilize our Zoom account. So other option.
Okay.
We also
I
have
have complete control over that. So you just let me know.
No, Jeff, we have it for this time on once a month, but it is not our own Zoom account. It's the city. So if we don't have, remember, we have to get approval on the times.
No, I understand. And I'd like to keep it just for consistency's sake. So if you don't mind reaching out, that'd be great. Yep. But we do have, as Jack said, the MCAs, and we also have our YouTube channel. I think we live streamed the mayoral one to our YouTube channel because we couldn't get access to the city's Zoom account for that evening. So I do appreciate you reaching out about the Zoom account, though, Brian. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to just mention is we're working on a bank of questions course that is the product of our committee, our kind of forum committees and brainstorming work, but also some input that we got from the community when we surveyed them for the broader forums when there were 17 candidates and 8 candidates for city council. And so we're going back through those again. But if you have questions you want to ask or want to have considered for to be asked, please do feel free to email them to myself and I will add them to our list. But again, depending on the mayoral forum date, we're going to have to whittle that down pretty quickly, and I'll be working with Mark and Liz and Brian to do so. Any other questions about this? I was really happy with how these went last time. They were, I think, some of our most successful events of the year, some of the most valuable ones in terms of what CPUN offers Central Park residents. And so I'm hopeful that with a bit of outreach, we can duplicate that.
I just posted the event to our calendar, so it should be up any minute now.
Great, thanks. So then the next thing I want to talk about is the annual meeting on May 16th. Do you mind going to that slide? So this here is not the agenda for this year. It's what we did last year. just as a reference point. But what we have to do, of course, is the CPUN board business. It's the vote on the presentation and vote on the slate. We'll do a kind of year in review, but the rest of the agenda is sort of up for grabs in terms of what the board would like to prioritize for the community. I do want to invite back Councilman Herndon to close things out. But the other slots are kind of interesting this year in that we've given a number of these guest speakers who we typically try to reserve for the annual forum a lot of space throughout the year. So for example, we just had the superintendent a few months ago at our monthly meeting. We had a big development update last fall with respect to runway 35 there at the interstate exchange. DPD has done a number of safety forums and stuff like that for us over the course of the year. So it provides us with kind of an interesting challenge in terms of making sure that we're providing fresh information, not being redundant. And so I'm curious about the board's perspective on what we might do instead. Mark's always quick to point out we don't have to fill 2 hours. That is true. That's true. We can be a little more brief. But if we wanted to fill this space, what we've typically tried to do here is focus on speakers that are a little more high profile, for lack of a better word, meaning they're harder to get a hold of, that maybe have longer tails between significant updates. Like development tends to be perfect because they don't have month-to-month updates so much as they have year-to-year updates in terms of what residents really care about. But with that kind of as stage setting, I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts or has any ideas about how we might update this agenda for next month.
Yes, I've been working with and Amanda and I have been working with Brian Weber from the foundation, and we've been working on a specific project, for lack of a better term, in terms of support for local schools and school staff. And we've been talking about that in the education committee and meeting with Brian regularly. So he's going to have a few things to say, given some time next month about that.
Great. So if Carol, you want to provide me with some kind of outline of that, or maybe
I will. I'll work with Brian about that and Amanda.
Okay.
Is there anything, because the city is in such flux right now, because May 16th and then the election is in the beginning of June, and it's kind of hard to pin down just anything across the whole city. Is there anything at the state level that's still local enough to be important that we could channel as this being a good time to maybe not put anyone at the city on the spot?
Maybe, but before I answer your actual question, I just had a thought. The city auditor's office has reached out to me periodically to see if they
ranked choice voting.
They would, yes, if they could present. I am confident that I could get Auditor O'Brien, who was reelected with no runoff, to join us for that. I think that would be a good one. And then back to your question about the state. I don't know. That's a good. Do you have any kind of thoughts about what kind of stuff, Amanda?
I mean, it comes back to education, I think, at this point. I mean, health too, but I think that's just trickier. But I guess I could circle back with Carol and one of our education committee members who's on the State Board of Education, but that might be something else to think about at the state level. But gosh, yeah, a solid 10 minutes on ranked choice voting, I think, is something that everyone needs to hear. Please make that happen.
I see from Amanda Steffen, session will be over at the state, so your rep and senator might be available to attend. I'd be interested in that. That sounds like it could be worth the outreach. Let me see what I can do here.
And Jeff, Beth
Yeah.
McCann's office always wants to come to things like this too.
Right.
And we've put them off, although they did come not this year, but last year. So
Yeah. Okay. So if we had a project from Carol and Amanda maybe in that kind of fire mitigation type slot there. And then we had Auditor Brian, Beth McCann, and then a state rep and state senator. I think that would be of interest to the community. Okay, let me start there. Are there any other ideas? No? Okay. Well, let me start there.
I couldn't unmute
Oh.
fast enough, sorry. Just any of the open space people, I think that that's something that we haven't connected with in a while between Bluff Lake and Sand Creek. But I don't know if there are any big updates. Maybe it's just worth like asking.
Yeah.
Or I guess Jack, maybe you would know. You might be in better contact with them, but
Bluff Lake is doing a big fundraising campaign this year. They're in stage 2 of a 4-stage thing, and they're trying to do it in a very particular way. So I could reach out to them and see where they are and if this would be a good fit for the way that they're trying to go about it.
And then also, we never really talked to the Arsenal very frequently, but it seems like with people getting so close to them now, they should sort of be looped in, although they might be trickier to talk to since they're federal.
Yeah.
I have a good contact at the Arsenal who has expressed interest in speaking with us. She came and visited an MCA delegate meeting some months back, so I can share that with Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Anything else? If not, this will be my little project here, and I'll let you guys know how I get on with it. Why don't we get to the treasurer's report? I can't believe this. We're way ahead of schedule. We are never this far ahead of schedule.
And Jeff, it'll take 2 seconds. We only got we had a little bit of extra fundraising. Some people bought some t-shirts. So we're still at about $8,000 in reserves at this point. And you know, I would say the call out there is that Mark and the fundraising committee have done a banner job of getting some pretty good fundraising, and the mini golf tournament will hopefully add to that. That's all I had.
Thanks. Does anyone want to talk about anything that we haven't covered?
I had a quick question. Ryan, did we everything get squared away with the bag order that we were splitting with the CPBA?
I have never sent the money to them because I never got any follow-up on that. So
yeah, we covered it in the last meeting. We approved the additional cost based on the invoice they'd sent you.
Then it probably is my fault. I need to probably send I'll send Jeff an email, Jeff Ederer an email, and get it taken care of.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Just want to make sure that got squared away.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay. Well, with plenty of time to spare, I'll say good night and thank you to everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
Good night, y'all.
Bye.